many of the people that I know who have tremendous amounts of money have huge fears around being poor. And so as an interesting thought, like a lot of people who don't have money see people who have money as thinking differently, and they might in that they are more uncomfortable being poor than you are. Like it is more painful for them than it is for you. It might be. I'm just being really real.
It might be why some of them are stingy too with their money.
Of course, 100%.
Like, I'm not going to spend this $5. I'm going to keep it. They're very stingy with all of it.
2 nights ago, we were out to dinner with a guy who just got valued at $1 billion. Right, and it's all cash flow. It's not one of these software things. Like it's off. Like he's getting, like he's making real money, crazy money. And he's like, I'm not going to that gym. He's like, for Equinox, I said, I'm not paying $200 a month for a gym membership. It's a different perspective. Now, I'm not saying I'm that way. You know what I mean? Like I'm okay spending on gym membership. That's fine for me. But like everyone has their own things, and like there are these behaviors. Like he got the other guy who had the 250. He got to that point because he squeezed everything out of his business, which made the business so valuable, and then he was able to sell it. But like the $1 billion guy was saying, he's like, you know what they don't tell you about when you sell your business, because he's sitting next to the guy with the 250, right? And he's like, the moment you sell your business, he's like, you have no cash flow. And so he felt that too. He's like, what are you going to do? He's like, you're going to take the money, and then what are you going to do? You're going to try and buy more cash flow because you got to replace the cash flow you had with the business.
You got to
get
real estate assets. You got to do something
else. He's like, why bother? He's like, I'll just keep it. And so he doesn't have any intentions of selling. And so it was an interesting lesson for me too, because like we obviously got rid of our cash flow asset when we sold all 3 last year.
Well, you got a lot more money, but you don't have the money cash coming in.
Right, because then it looks like this finite asset. The business goes on forever, in your mind at least, right? And so it gives you this illusion of control, this illusion of security. And me personally, most people wouldn't believe this when I hear it, but like I'm very risk averse. And so I probably need, like, what's the core changes that I need to have? I probably need to be a little bit more of a risk taker than I am. Like I tend to always take the lowest risk path when I can. Even the idea of like when I quit entrepreneurship, when I quit my job to start entrepreneurship, it was because I knew that the path that I was on was guaranteed not to get to me where I want. So I had a 0 outcome. And so this one, even though it was lower, like I had a low chance of success, the other one had 100% failure guarantee. And so it felt like the lower risk option for my long-term goals to quit my job and become an entrepreneur for that reason. And so, people are like, I'm really risk averse. I'm like, so am I. Like I hoard money. Like I do.
You haven't spent any of the money from the exit still.
No,
it's like just sitting in the bank.
Nothing. We started working the next day. We didn't even take a day off.
Yeah.
We literally sold, wire hit, and we started working on acquisition.com the next day.
Let's say you had to start putting that cash flow every month into other things, team, resources, whatever it is. And that wasn't coming in. And, maybe let's call it $100,000 a month was coming in with cash flow. I don't know how much it is, but let's just say that is going into hiring team and other things to support you getting to the $1 billion in 2.5 years. What would need to shift inside of you after 3 months of feeling no cash flow come in to stack your bank account in order for you to be okay with it, to get to that $1 billion quicker?
I would just have to be more secure, just realistically. Like I use...
What does that mean? Is that an internal...
I use cash flow from businesses as evidence to the fact that I'm not a failure. And so I've always, like, it has been easier for me to change my conditions than to change who I am. And so I have used my material success and accolades to quiet the voices of not being good enough. And so for that, like, me having that, if I have that little voice that peeps up, it's like, hey, look at that. And I'm like, okay, no, I'm okay. I'm not that bad.
This money just came in every month.
I'm not that bad, right? And so I'd really have to re-engineer the conversation I have with myself around how I value myself. Because then people are like, well, if everything disappeared, how would you feel about yourself? I like to think that I would be uncomfortable and then I would change my views, but I haven't needed to do that yet, and so my effort goes elsewhere.
Right.
But that's what probably would have to happen in order for me to make that change.
What is the thing that you're afraid of inside of yourself? Is it a self-worth thing? Is it a self-love thing? Is it a belief that you're not good enough?
Yeah, it'd definitely be a good enough thing, for sure. Yeah, it's just like maybe I'm not as good as I think I am. Maybe everything that I've been putting on media, maybe my book, maybe all these things are actually not true and I don't know what I'm talking about, right? Because clearly I don't know what I'm talking about because I'm not making any money. Like, so these things that's why acquisition.com is the other half. Like the actual businesses of acquisition.com compared to the media of acquisition.com, it is the other half because it's the evidence of the fact that the things that I say are true.
Because those are getting results.
100%.
And they're growing.
Right. And so that way I feel bulletproof when I make the content, when I make the book, when I write the stuff. Like there's a zillion people who are like, you suck, none of this is true, whatever. And for me, it rolls off my back because I have evidence.
Right.
And I'm like, no, it is true. And here's how. But if I didn't have that, I would probably have to, it's because I don't know what the right call is there. Because if I didn't have the evidence, it would be hard for me to say you're wrong because I don't have any proof that they're wrong.
But you have evidence now.
Right. And so I have this evidence. And
so how do you change the belief inside that you're good enough with the years of evidence now?
The question is like, have I built $1 billion thing yet? You know what I mean? And so
that'll be 10 billion.
Yeah. Oh, of course. No, but like it's a fun convo, and it's great because this was wonderful, Lewis, because I get to see my own limiting beliefs. And just for everyone who's listening, like everyone deals with this. You know what I mean? At every level, you're dealing with this of like feeling of inadequacy. Feeling not good enough, feeling like you're not smart, feeling like you don't work hard, whatever it is. Like I have that stuff all the time because you think that the external circumstance is gonna solve that. And I would say that it does to a degree. It becomes a crutch.
Right.
But then you have this crutch, and then you just tie your self-worth to the accolade of the thing rather than still yourself. And maybe I need to do more work on that. Who knows?
If you could overcome one thing or eliminate one thing internally to become a better leader to yourself, to quiet the noise
100%.
or help you take a risk in a different way.
Yeah.
I'm not talking about lose all your money, but take the risk to help you accelerate this.
Yeah.
And you don't have to, by the way, but I just believe that it's possible for you to do that.
Yeah.
I believe you can be a billionaire in 2.5 years.
I appreciate it.
That's
the goal.
If you shift whatever inside of you is holding you back to get to that space. What would be that one thing to eliminate or overcome internally to make it happen?
Is need for external validation, 100%.
The need for external validation.
Why do you need I knew when you started the question.
Why do you need external validation?
I mean, I think part of it's so ingrained in us. If you think about us as kids, right? Like, how do you orient yourself with the world? You get reinforced or punished at all phases, directly, indirectly. But you get reinforced or punished, and the things that you get reinforced, you do more of. The things you get punished, you do less of, right? Like that's just how we learn behavior, how we learn to function in society, right? Touch that thing, it hurts. We got punished. Okay, your parent tells you to sit down and be quiet and eat, and you learn to sit down and shut up and eat. And then we wonder why adults don't move because we're told to sit when we're running around, right? We learn
or at school, sit down and be quiet.
100%. And we wonder why we eat so much when the reward for everything we did when we were a kid was food, right? We wonder these things. So the reason external validation is so hard, at least for me, is because it's how I learned everything. Is because external validation gave me the directional guidance of what's good and what's not. And then as you get older, it's where am I going to get that validation from? And so I would say that my external validation is still 100% there. It just comes from different sources. So I'm more selective on whose validation I want.
So how much external validation do you need in order to overcome this belief, to go all in and do it in half the time?
Yeah. No, I think I need to be able to validate myself. And that's fundamentally, I think Epictetus said this. He said, like, he has this quote, it's so good, but it's basically like, you need to be able to you don't need to swear to somebody else. You should be able to swear to yourself and bear witness to yourself because your word should be good enough.
So you need to eliminate external validation.
Right.
From you feeling good enough.
Probably, yeah. It's probably that. Like, obviously, it's good to have feedback in life.
Of course,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think that's why it's also difficult for some in general because it's not eliminate or have more of. It's to what degree and from whom and about what. And so then it gets a little bit more complex. But even using those different lenses, I think it's good to unpack it for anyone who's listening, which is like, okay, Layla said this, so this is not mine. But most times when we're afraid of something, it's not actually like this amorphous crowd that we're afraid of. It's like one or two people's opinion. Like it's your dad or it's your whatever it is, right? And you're worried about what they're going to think. And they're not even thinking about you, but you think they're thinking about it. They're thinking about their dad, right? He's not thinking about it, whatever it is, right? And so she restated this earlier on in like when we were together 5 years ago. She was like, and she like made me name the person. It wasn't my dad, it was somebody else for this particular thing. She was like, are you going to let this guy stop us from getting what we want?
Wow.
And it was like, when I saw it, it was just like looking in front of me. I was like, she's like, what if this guy hates you and thinks you're terrible? Is that a worthy enough reason to still keep going? And I was like, yeah. She's like, then let's go. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so she was very good with that.
What do you need to say to yourself every day to believe you're good enough? If you could say one thing to you that no one else needed to hear, but you needed to hear it from you, what would that be?
I don't know if it would be a saying thing. I don't think it'd be like an affirmation. I think it's just a belief. You know what I mean?
What would the belief be?
Yeah, I mean, fundamentally, the belief would just have to shift that the doingness is enough validation for me.
Not the results.
Right. And that's all, I mean, fundamentally, that's always the goal, is that you can detach the doingness from the result. I think what I've been able to do has been to extend the time horizon between the doingness and the result, but not necessarily fully eliminate it. I'm patient in that I can continue to do things for very long periods of time before seeing a payoff. But if I were able to truly eliminate it, I think that would be kind of like a next step. But then again, it's that borderline on insanity, because if you never get feedback on sometimes, you're like, maybe I should change direction.
But you'll keep getting feedback though, because you're creating, you're taking action.
Yeah.
You'll be, the more you do that, you'll have more businesses you'll be acquiring, you'll be creating more content, and everything will be growing at the same time.
Yeah.
Right?
100%.
I love seeing you, go through this process internally, because I think...
I'm open to it. I just want to win. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to be better.
What does winning look like?
It's achieving the potential. It's taking all this raw potential. The line in the Bible that always scared me the most was, to whom much is given, much is expected. And so for me, I always felt like I was given a lot. You know what I mean? Like, I was born in America right off the bat. I was born as a guy. I have insane genetics. Like, from that perspective, I had a six-pack when I was 15. You know what I mean?
Right.
I have a pretty high processing load. Like, I do okay with complex problems. I was bilingual at birth, because parents talked to me a different language, so that gave me good language abilities. And so it's like these are all things that were given to me, right? And I was born into like from a money standpoint, a decently wealthy family, right? Not ultra brilliant, but like never worried about food or shelter or anything like that, right? And so these are all the things that were given to me. And so to me, I'm like, man, much is expected, right? And not necessarily that's God, whatever. Just I expect a lot of myself, because I see so much potential, and I want to like by the time I die, I would like to have nothing left in my potential tank, and it just all have been transformed into my reality. Yeah. So that's what winning looks like.
What do you feel like is missing in your life?
Not a lot. I'm just like really right off the bat, like I really like, I'm amped right now. I'm super pumped. I love what we're doing. I love the businesses that we're helping. I love the mission. I like doing this.
Yeah.
Not a lot. I mean, if I got into things that were missing, it would be like super tactical. Of like, I want these roles are ones that I want filled in the company. You know what I mean? Like, it'd be stuff like that. It wouldn't be anything else.
Right.
The thing that like really drives me though is acquisition.com is the wealth machine that is behind Alex and Layla's media, right? And so I wouldn't be a very good business educator unless I had proof or evidence that I actually was good at business, right? And so we obviously could just sit on the laurels of the three exits we had last year,